This is your skull. We have the cranial bones. This would be your frontal bone over here in the front, like the name says. Right behind it, you have two parietal bones. Behind the parietal bones, you have an occipital bone. And on the sides, you have two temporal bones, one on each side. So temporal bone on the left side, temporal bone on the right side. Bone features that you need to know for this station in the frontal bone would be the supraorbital foramen, so it's a hole on top of the eye, supraorbital foramen, and that's the only bone feature that you need to know for the frontal bone. And then right here down the middle, you have the nasal bone. You have two nasal bones. On the side here, when you pinch your nose, you're going to have the lacrimal bone, one on the left side and one on the right side. Over here is the maxilla. The maxilla is also two separate bones. You have the infraorbital foramen on the maxilla. So the supraorbital foramen is on the frontal bone, but the infraorbital foramen is on the maxilla. Then down here we have another bone, which is the mandible. The mandible has two holes right on the front, which are called the mental foramen. So when you're thinking about something and you're putting your fingers on your chin like this, you're thinking, that's your mental foramen right over here. Here on the side, you have this smooth articulating surface over here, which is called the mandibular condyle. And then on this view, right over here, you're going to have the mandibular foramen, which are these two holes here on the mandible. While we're here, we have the palatine bone right over here behind the maxilla. So this is the maxilla. This would be your palatine bone. You have two of those. And now let's go to the bone features of the occipital bone. Right over here you have this smooth articulating surface, which is the occipital condyles, one on each side, that will articulate with the atlas. Then over here, underneath the occipital condyles, you have this hole, which is called the hypoglossal canal on this side and then on this side. This big hole over here is called the foramen magnum, where the spinal cord is going to go through. And then you have this big hole here on the side, which is called your jugular foramen, one on this side and one on the other side, where your jugular vein is going to go through. Now we're going to talk about the sutures. So the first suture is the one that separates the frontal bone from the parietal bones, which is your coronal suture, right down here, the line. And the next one would be your sagittal suture, which separates the parietal bones. On the back, the one that separates the occipital bone from the parietal bones is going to be your lambdoid suture, right over here. And on the side, the suture that separates the temporal bone from the parietal bone is going to be your squamous suture, right over here.